everyone, and welcome back to Don't Open That Door. I am Justin, the hopeful rapper.
I am Nico, the high priest of Super Simptember.
And I'm Dan, the cult leader.
And we're here today to discuss The Babysitter, directed by McG. It's got Samara Weaving as B, Judah Lewis as Cole, Emily Allen Lind as Melanie, Robbie Amell as Max, and Hannah May Lee as Sonia. So we open this movie with Cole. He's basically a really kind of cautious and coddled, bullied 12-year-old. You know, he's got parents that care about him, but they're kind of sometimes, they do coddle him as well. But his favorite person in the entire world is B. She's basically, his extremely outgoing, charismatic, very good-looking babysitter. And he's very, very attached to her. Nico, he probably likes her more than he even likes his parents, right?
Oh, absolutely. He shows way more emotion towards her than anyone in the movie.
So we do kind of see how, for Cole at least, he goes through his day-to-day life. He gets bullied. He's too afraid to drive a car when his dad tries to teach him how to drive. He's afraid of the insects under his house. But with B, everything's simple. She makes him feel normal and she makes him feel good. So one weekend, when his parents go away, Cole is super excited to, spend the weekend with B. But, things don't quite go how he planned. So what exactly happens, Nico?
Right. So I just want to know before we get into this part of the plot synopsis, this movie starts off wholesome as fuck, y'all. It's so goddamn cute. But then we learn that B is the ringleader of a cult. The plan is for B to slip Cole some drug in a drink to knock him out and then steal his blood. Cole ends up not taking the drug because he kind of pusses out, and B is giving him like a shot of alcohol to like help him go to sleep easier. And he's like, I don't want to do it. And so he, tosses out the alcohol, which is fair. Cole ends up not taking the drug, and he ends up witnessing B's cult sacrifice another dude, RIP to my man Samuel, as she, B stabs 2 knives out of nowhere into his skull and like turns him into a blood fountain. However, Cole is then discovered a little bit later, and he runs away, overcoming his fears and fighting off and even killing, although sometimes unintentionally, the members of the cult.
That's very true, and we'll talk a little bit about some of those deaths later, but it was almost on some Three Stooges shit sometimes.
It really was.
Dan, what happens after he fights off the cult?
So he methodically murders each one. And at the end, it's just one-on-one, 1v1, him versus B. And he finds her spell book. That is the book that's supposed to, make the pact with the devil or something. He ends up eventually burning the spell book, and then he gets in a car, and he had a fear of driving a car before, but he kind of gets over it and drives the car into his house and basically crushing her beneath the car and kills her, so we think anyways. So the movie ends, and she's underneath the car, and she's not quite dead yet, so they're having a conversation, and he finally admits to how much he actually loves her, but he doesn't really need her anymore. He's kind of grown up, and it closes with him saying there's kind of a cool kind of little line at the end. His parents come back, and they're like, oh my God, are you okay? And he looks to the camera and says, I don't think I need a babysitter anymore.
And yeah, that would have been a perfect ending, but we get a post-credit scene because, every movie needs to have one. So we get a scene where B, who, as Dan just described, we think she's dead because she's been crushed under this car. But no, she's actually alive, and she attacks a fireman. It's a real quick scene, maybe 5 seconds, if that, 5 to 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Blink and you'll miss it type thing.
Yeah, and mid-credits. It's a mid-credit scene, not post. I apologize. But yeah, so let's go ahead now and, get down to it. Let's start with the visuals of this movie. So obviously, for anyone who doesn't know, it's a Netflix original. And, typically, the Netflix movies have a certain standard of fidelity when it comes to both their audio and their video. So Nico, I'm going to start with you. How'd you feel about the visuals in this one?
In particular with the, like I was saying earlier, the fact that the first third of this movie is really just wholesome as hell. It shows a lot more color and vibrancy and life than you would expect a horror movie to. And insofar as it goes towards, that sort of route of things, I really appreciated it. But the cinematography was all well done. The costume design, all the characters were really well designed, and you can tell that they each had a personality just by looking looking at them. I particularly like the scene where Cole wakes up and he's tied to a chair and he just has this sort of like non sequitur. Why is there a dude with the shirt off? And everyone's like, that's your fucking question? But I really like that they took that choice and they made the visuals fun. And that's what I really like about this movie.
It is a very fun movie. And I agree with what you said about the visuals. I think, and we'll discuss it a little bit later, maybe this isn't, like a pure horror movie. And that kind of contributed to some of the visuals that we saw. But you're absolutely right. Particularly, the movie starts with open sunlight and we see a lot. Dan, any comments on the visuals?
I mean, I thought it was all good. There wasn't a whole lot that had to be done, meaning like there's no monsters or a ton of CGI necessary or anything like that. I mean, it's all real people and real stuff. Obviously, there's some gore in it, and the gore that is there is well done. But there's not like a lot of things to mess up on, I guess, if that makes sense. And I mean that in a good way. The gore and the things that they did need to do, they did well. It looked great, and I enjoyed it quite a bit, actually.
Did you also enjoy the audio as much? Because I do know, so I liked it. I thought the audio was great. There was only once or twice where a song might have come on. I forget exactly when it was. I think it was towards the start of the movie. There was some song that came on, and I was like, this is a interesting selection. But other than that, I thought even the score fit really well. How'd you feel about it, Dan?
I liked it. Again, kind of going back to the first 30 minutes or so is not at all a horror movie, and the music fit that. And then when it switched over to more of the horror kind of stuff, music fit that as well. And near the end, when he gets in the car and runs into the house, what song is that plays?
Is it We Are the Champions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, it's a good choice. It tied the whole movie together in the sort of like cheesy comedy. To me, this movie is like Scream meets Home Alone, kind of. And I feel like the visuals, the audio, everything just fit that narrative and the theme and did it well.
Well, I mean, you've pretty much knocked on the door, so let's go ahead and open it here.
No, don't.
No, don't open it.
Unfortunately, these are the risks we take for our listeners. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. It does have kind of like a horror feel to it, but it's also a comedy, I think, in a lot of respects. There's a lot of, funny moments that happen in this movie. Where do you guys put this? Do you guys put this, and I'm going to start with you, Nico. Do you guys put this more so on the horror side of things or more so on the comedy side of things?
So Dan brought up the film that I was going to reference, Home Alone, and personally, I think this is more comedy than horror. I think it is a comedy with horror flavoring. I'll bring up an example of the visuals that sort of play into the trends and tropes of comedy. There were some moments, particularly in the first half of the movie, where there were these sort of like really cool, groovy looking fonts that were coming up and just like text on the screen that was very indicative of comedy, and particularly like teen comedy in a few places. Like there was one time where when he was sitting on the stairs and Cole sees B stab into Samuel, again, RIP for my man, and you just see the super stylized "what the fuck" come on screen, and that made me laugh. But there is the whole underpinning of like, well, this is a cult, but the entire time that it's going around, it's real campy, it's real fun. So I personally lean more towards comedy.
Okay, Dan, where does your seesaw lean here?
I'm inclined to agree with Nico. I think it's more of a comedy than horror. However, I think my definition of horror is a little bit wider than a lot of people's probably. So I still put it in a horror genre, but put it as like horror comedy, but it's definitely more comedic than it is horror.
Yeah, this movie, I think, walks the line really well. I would say it's predominantly comedy over horror. I don't really think this movie ever truly sets out to scare you.
Yeah, it's not scary, really.
But, there are certainly elements of horror within this movie, especially, and it's kind of a weird dichotomy because personally, I feel like if I was like 13, 14 or whatever, Cole is 12 in the movie, but I feel like if I was like 13 or 14, I would have loved this movie.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Like I would have loved the shit out of this movie if I was around that age. And I do like the movie still, but I feel like being Cole's age would kind of let me relate, better. to the character. So I agree with you guys. And I do think, like we could talk about Zombies, Dale and Tucker versus Evil. There's just like so many movies out there that are horror comedies now. And Dan, I actually agree with you. I'm one of those people who, like, if you try to tell me this is like a straight up and down horror movie, I might have a disagreement with you. But no, I definitely see this as like a kind of a horror adjacent kind of product. And yeah, I mess with it. So, as part of, and I kind of reference this, like if I was 13 or 14, I would mess with this a lot. So there's something to be said here for kind of a coming of age story almost. I almost feel like from the start of the movie to the end, we kind of literally see Cole kind of grow up a little bit, kind of grow into a man. Are there any like examples of that, like really big ones? There's one that sticks out to me. Any for you guys?
I think one is when he starts to overcome his fears. He's always been kind of scared. And at one point in the movie, when it's just down to him versus B, he ends up escaping and running across the street to this not quite girlfriend, but
Paramore.
Yeah.
Wow. His friend.
His beau.
His friend's house. And they definitely do have a thing for each other. They kiss there, whatever. The two of them hide in the bathroom and B is walking around the house with a shotgun. And he tells her, I'm sorry that I dragged you into this. And he leaves, he gets out of the bathroom and closes the door and tries to lock the door, but the door only locks inside, so it doesn't work. But the girl is even like, oh, that's so sweet or whatever. But that was like a cool, to me, like a coming of age, so to speak, thing, because not only is he overcoming his fears, but he's overcoming them enough to look out and try to protect someone else. And like,
yeah, he's becoming selfless.
Yeah, and I think that was a major one to me.
You guys talk about Home Alone. There's another much lesser known movie that I actually think this kind of belongs to as well. There's a really old movie called The Page Master.
Yes,
holy
I love that
shit.
movie.
Oh my God, yes. Yo, that movie fucking slaps.
Right. So, I mean, literally.
Go watch that fucking movie. It's not horror. Just go fucking watch it.
There is a book named Horror in the movie. Basically, in that movie, like the main character, it opens with a scene of him like being afraid to do certain things. And that kind of leads to his downfall. But at the end, he's actually not afraid anymore. And I think this movie did reflect that. I mean, even in The Page Master at the very end, he ramps his bike. And in this movie, the kid ramps the car. That like hit me directly. Like I was like, oh shit, it's just so cool. And you know what? I have a question later about it, but I do think it is definitely a coming of age story for sure. But Nico, I got a question for you now, since you'd like to do deep dives.
I do like to do deep dives.
Deep tissue massage. Yeah. So what other themes or tropes can you find here within this movie?
There is definitely the whole stereotypes about masculinity, in particular with how, Cole's, again, literally a 12-year-old, but there are some of the antagonists that he faces earlier on are some bullies, and we're not entirely sure how old they are. They might be like freshmen in high school, or perhaps they're also 12 or something. It's not clear.
I know the
important.
ringleader of the bullies is 14. He says his age.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Well, then in that case, yeah, we can assume that they're all around the same age then. And they're sort of exemplifying the traits of toxic masculinity, which the movie very clearly is self-aware of, and I'm going to give props to this movie for that insofar as it is self-aware throughout, which we can talk about in some favorite scenes later. But the movie likes to poke fun at the absurdity of toxic masculinity and bullying, particularly with the first few lines where it was like, I don't remember if he was making a dick joke or a fart joke or something, but it devolves to the bully saying, like, I don't care if you like my fart joke, and then getting mad. It's like, hey, I really want you to like my fucking fart joke, you little bitch. And just the absurdity and the doubling down was something that I appreciated. So I think the movie does tackle themes of maturity within your own gender.
So I think that's really, really interesting. And I have a quick question, I guess kind of a random question almost.
Hit me.
Do you think that constantly being around B was good for his development?
Oh, fuck yeah. Absolutely. She was one of the best and kindest adults in his life. based off of what we see, now I'm assuming that his parents aren't like total fucking wrecks or something, but she's a really good babysitter and she's a good friend to Cole, arguably throughout the movie, except for the parts where, like, you know, he's in danger and stuff. But I would argue that she was a really good person in his life.
See, I feel like he did need some kind of like masculine reinforcement, but just from like a different kind of angle or a
got
different
it
kind
later
of way.
on.
Yes. And that's what I'm going to say. I actually low-key think that Max, the shirtless guy in the movie, I legitimately think that he and like his interactions with Cole were actually helpful to Cole.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think he literally like he drops a lot of fucking gems on him. One of my favorite scenes is like where one of the bullies shows up late at night to like egg Cole's house, and like in this part of the scene, Max like has Cole. He's choking the life out of him, and then all of a sudden they hear the eggs. He's like, "Are they egging your house?" Yeah. What are you gonna do about it? No, you go over there and you wreck his shit. And it was just like, yo, he disrespected you and he disrespected your family by coming onto your house to do this. And I was like, yo, that's actually kind of real. But because I remember that same shit. Like I remember getting like a very similar speech to that. So I don't know. I thought that shit was like, I thought it was pretty funny, but no. Part of the problem with Cole was that I feel like he was almost overly coddled in a lot of different situations. Not the car situation with his father. That was like the one where I was like,
That shit was weird.
Yeah.
At first I thought, the first time I watched the movie, and we kind of discussed this before we started the podcast, I thought Cole was older because his dad was over here trying to teach him how to drive. Something you typically do when your kid's like, what, 14, 15?
Yeah.
Around there. That's around when you start learning. But like a 12-year-old, I mean, granted, he's like totally freaked out for no reason, but like, I don't know. Like I could see why someone who's that age would have like a little bit of
wouldn't
anxiety.
say no reason. I remember when I started driving, I was very much aware that I was operating like a 2-ton fucking death machine.
Yeah. Especially if you were 12.
And like, particularly Cole, he doesn't look that tall, so I imagine it was just like operating the car was kind of awkward. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to give this man as much credit as I can.
Well, I mean, yeah, you are. But I don't know. When he was sitting there trying to like modify the dad's car with the butcher knife or whatever else like that.
That was
I
pretty
sorry, he was trying to
funny, too.
modify his RC car with his dad's like steak knife. I was like, oh.
He's clearly smart.
Dude is smart.
Yes,
as
he's
shit.
very, very intelligent. He knows all the fucking like police radio codes and shit too. Like 10-4, that's a 7-6.
Well,
or whatever.
The whole like modifying the little RC car, because he says like, when I do this and I run it off the ramp, it's going to do a barrel roll and land the way I want it to, and that's exactly what happens at the end. He runs the car off the
you're right.
Yeah, off the ramp. He does a barrel roll and lands right into the house.
Do a barrel roll. But no, so
Damn. Okay, Cole.
He's just smart as
Okay.
shit. One thing, it's interesting that you mentioned the Page Master, because I didn't really catch that kind of reference. But this movie does reference a lot of other movies, and or maybe not a lot, but it makes references, specifically like slashers. So like the scene kind of when Max is chasing him, Cole is up in a treehouse and Max is kind of stalking him a little bit, and Max goes, ch-ch. Just like, Friday the 13th. And yeah, there's a lot of like fog around and everything. And one thing I noticed too was that I thought this was really cool that the members of the cult all fulfill stereotypical slasher roles, except now they're the antagonist rather than being the protagonists.
oh snap.
It's kind of like an inverse Cabin in the Woods almost, but less cerebral.
Yeah, much less, cerebral.
Yeah, you have like the funny guy, the jock, the cheerleader, the babysitter.
Yeah.
And then you have he's not really a member of the
sacrifice.
cult, but yeah, our man Samuel.
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
So speaking of the last letter there, P, how about pacing? The first, as we've said, half an hour or so of this movie really doesn't have any kind of action or drive. It's literally world building. It's building up Cole's life, his relationship with B. They do a whole choreographed dance move, which I was like, bro, if you can remember
fucking swag.
If you can remember that dance move, bro, in like 2 years when you go to like your first like real party, bro, bust that out. Michelle is going to be like, yup, that's my man.
Melanie.
Like,
Bust a move. Cole,
that's all you gotta do.
Nope.
Yeah.
Regret that.
Melanie. As Nico wallows in his regret, Dan, I ask you this. The pacing, how'd you feel about that, bro?
So it was interesting. I actually liked it quite a bit.
Me too.
It's just almost odd to watch a movie for 30 minutes before literally anything related to horror or any, like, I mean, there's no hint of, I mean, you're just watching like a comedy drama kind of thing. Like, so I actually really liked it because it helped, like you said, kind of world build and build the relationship between Cole and B and everything. So then at the end, when they're having the conversation, like coming of age, so to speak, conversation, like it's much more
Poignant.
Yeah, poignant, much more meaningful.
Yeah, Nico, after the podcasts, I'm going to have to take 15 Hail John Carpenters from you. But for right now,
That's fair.
The pacing, do you agree with what Dan said as far as like the first 30 minutes or so being actually enjoyable?
Oh, yeah, no, it's not a thing where the contrast is necessarily even that stark because it transitions really fluidly. Like when the scene cuts and we see B, plunge these knives into Samuel, again, R.I.P. to my man, into his head, they never really miss a beat. They're still like the characters are oozing with personality. Shut the hell up. The characters are oozing with personality and
blood.
just kind of
And
like,
blood.
shut. Oh my God. Oh my God, Justin. Anyway, the pacing's good, you fucking asshole. That's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta fucking say. Are you happy? Are you happy, Justin?
Well, speaking of, being happy, would you say that B was in actually a happy relationship, like with Cole as his babysitter? Like, do you think the feelings there were genuine, Dan?
I do, actually. I do think that she actually really liked him. And there's a couple scenes where we see something close to regret. I don't know that I would quite call it regret, but the spell calls for blood of the innocent. I don't think she ever plans to actually kill him. When she drugs him, which obviously doesn't happen like we said before because he doesn't take it, she thinks he's drugged and goes and takes some of his blood. So I think that's the only blood she's going to use. And like, I don't think that she was going to kill him or anything. The only reason why they got into this whole predicament where she was going to kill him was because he found out about what was going on.
Also, she even mentioned that he was going to be like a quote unquote fountain for them. So that implies that they probably wanted to do that multiple times.
I didn't think about that.
You got a lot of blood in your body, bro. Don't be stingy.
Nah, for real. If anyone if you're like a vampire, I got you, son. But no, so
Just seeping with blood so much.
Any of you vampires listening to this podcast, you already know.
I do have to ask you, Nico.
Yeah?
Do you feel sorry at all for B? Like at the end when she's crushed by the car, and also the weight of her ambition, really.
Wow.
You know what it is? And correct me if you're not feeling the same way I do. To me, it's almost like, you know how like when someone's like a villain or like an evil person, they just go down this path because they feel like they have to, and they know that they're like not a good person. So at the end, when they're defeated, they're not even really mad. It's more so like a weight has almost been lifted, and they're like, yeah, you got me.
Honestly, yeah, I would buy that. And I also do kind of feel sorry for B because, as I established in the intro to this podcast, as well as throughout our time doing Don't Open That Door, I am a lizard-brained dumbass. And gosh damn, Samara Weaving is just... you are so pretty. If you're listening, hi, I'm single.
Her name is Samara. So take that. You already fucked up.
Is it actually Samara?
Why don't you fight me?
I'm not a violent person, Justin. I'm a lover, not a fighter.
So let's go ahead now and the popular, the ever famous, what would you do? For this, let's go ahead and take it back to when we all first met, and actually even before that.
In those old, long castaway days.
Those ancient times.
Those ancient days.
What would you say, like let's say you had a babysitter who was, quite attractive.
I did.
You did?
Shout outs to you, Dan.
When I was
Shout
like,
outs to
I don't
you.
know, 8.
Did she ever kill anyone?
I hope not. But I never stayed
damn.
up to find out. So maybe.
Hey, there you go. Never really had babysitters in my house. My mom was just like, you know what happens. Don't get murked. Like true.
If someone comes in here, you get stabbed, that's on you, bro.
I knew where the cutlass was, but no. So listen. So let's say we were all 12, right? Cole's age. Who wants to have the hot babysitter here? Dan, is it you or Nico? Because it's not going to be me.
I'll
It's gonna
take
be
the
Nico.
hot
It's gonna be Nico.
babysitter.
Yeah, you're gonna have to carry that burden.
Oh no.
Would you? Let's say you stay up and you witness them killing off some poor bastard. What is your next move?
Call the fucking cops?
Really, you do that? You wouldn't call us first? You wouldn't drop us a text?
He doesn't
Oh
know
no, I
us
would
yet.
text you guys first. Oh, okay,
No.
true.
No.
This is
I'm saying.
long, way before we met.
This is in those ancient days.
Okay, no, I'm saying we're friends. We're friends back in those ancient days.
Okay, then yeah,
Doing
I
a
would
little
let you
bit,
guys.
a little bit of fan fiction here.
Okay.
I would let you guys know, and then I would call the cops. Which Cole does. He does exactly fucking that, and shout outs to him for that.
He does react very quickly. Although if I was him, I'd have focused on getting out first. And
Yeah, I
then
would have just
calling.
jumped out
Yes.
the fucking window.
Yeah.
Dad had jumped out the window.
It
And he ends
wasn't
up
that
doing
far
it
of a
anyways.
fall.
So let's say now, let's go ahead and shift the scenario for you, Dan, a little bit. Nico says he would do what Cole pretty much did. So let's say you're being chased down by the cult. Would you kind of loop in your homies or would you try and handle it on your own?
I would for sure loop in my homies. I'm bringing you guys into this. Like, sorry, but you're part of this. I would text you all the bat signal, and then
Oh, shit.
and then it would be game over.
Squat up.
Wait, so we would be turned up while this is happening?
Yep.
Yo.
I mean, 12-year-old me.
We gotta save Elias.
And 12-year-old me already took a double shot of some drugs, apparently.
Oh, Christ.
But no, like, I think that, first off, I agree. I would definitely hit you guys up in a heartbeat. But also, I don't know. I kind of feel like you guys are right. There is a certain Home Alone-esque quality. I feel like we would just get into some funny hijinks. Like, I don't know. Nico might, like, have to, like, cough or something like that. So he bends over to cough. And right when he does that, one of the bad guys, like, trips over Nico. And then, like, Dan is tall. So when he falls and, like, hits a tree or something like that, like, the
No one
tree
hears
branch
it.
snaps and then falls and, like, impales the bad person or something like that. You know, I feel like that kind of stuff would happen. You know, I don't know what I'd be doing in the cut, but that I would just, you know, lay low. But I would definitely, so we all agree, if in this situation, especially as a kid, you invite your friends and you confront the bad guys together.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
What a good friendship we all have. And no one betrayed anyone this time. So
I think this is like one of the few times where that's actually been a,
Yeah.
unified front.
yeah. Well, you gotta watch your back at all
Damn,
costs.
shout outs to me.
So
Yeah, self-improvement.
Good job, Nico.
speaking of shout outs to you, what's your favorite scene in this movie, Nico? Call out one.
It's gotta be the one where Max stops the process of murdering Cole and he's like, wait. You're letting this dude egg your house and you're gonna fucking take that? No, we're going over there right now and you're gonna show him what the fuck is good.
Yeah, that was a pretty fucking good scene.
And just literally every time Samara Weaving was on screen because hard eyes, motherfucker.
All right, Dan. So go ahead and call out a favorite scene from you.
I think mine is actually going to be near the end after he runs the car into the house and they're kind of talking. And earlier in the movie, before all this stuff went down,
Teeth.
there's a scene where he and B are talking and he's like, all right, B, if you're in a science fiction movie, what are the 5 or 6 crew members that you would bring on your spaceship or whatever? So I can't remember exactly who she
So
names.
goddamn
Like
cute.
Picard, Captain Kirk, and a few others or whatever.
Data
Ripley,
and someone else.
Ripley.
Yeah.
No, she doesn't bring Data. He does.
Okay.
So then at the end, when she's like dying, supposedly underneath this car, she's like, I never asked you who you would bring. And I can't remember exactly who, I guess Data and 1 or 2 other people. And then he goes, and me and you. And then she's like, yeah, but in this story, you know, in real life, I am the big bad guy. Like, I'm the one you'd be fighting. But I was just like, man, I don't know. That was kind of a touching moment. I'm kind of a
shit.
suck for that. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Kingdom Hearts, where like you're playing some like kind of badass shit, but then every once in a while it like hits you in the feels, you know?
We'll always be together.
Gore.
Our hearts.
Gorsh. Donald
Can you tell we were the
fucking
target demographic when that game came out?
We definitely were.
So, I mean, Dan, first off, thank you for stealing out my scene.
You're welcome.
You were a real hoe for that. So the next scene that I'm going to have to call out, I'm going to have to brush off my substitute bench, do a quick change here. I guess probably one of my favorite scenes as well is the scene where Max, again, I like Max. He was probably my, one of my favorite characters when he is chasing down Cole, he gives him life lessons. He's like, you want to get a head start? And he's like, that's not fair. You're the quarterback. Yeah, I know, but life isn't fair. And then like, there's another time where, he's like, what do you even want? Like, you're killing people. And Max is like, oh, no. Like, I came here to kill people. This is totally what I want to do.
It's like, I'm not here to do the things that other people are here for. I just want to kill people.
Yeah. I was like, whoa.
I'm a very practical person, you see.
Yeah, like he was, I don't know, like I thought that was pretty funny. But, and I will say this as well, I almost want to give the podcast vote here to when John dies. Ironically, John does not die at the end of this movie. When John dies, it's very Home Alone-esque. He like slips on a car that, a little remote control car that I think Cole forgot to pick up or something. And he falls over a banister, smashes through a desk and gets impaled on like some kind of award. Mm-hmm. And I was like, whoa. Because that's the second bit of gore. The first bit of gore is obviously poor Samuel's death. But
R.I.P.
R.I.P. But like this was insane. Like it just, and I was like, oh no. So yeah, I don't know. That was kind of wild. But again, with the good must come the bad. So criticisms. Anyone have any major criticisms, minor criticisms, small, big, medium, just right? Gonna go with you, Nico.
We've kind of like hinted at this throughout the podcast. It's a little weird that like Cole is 12 and it's just a little bit hard to follow what his age actually is. This is my first time watching it, and excuse me, prior to, starting up this recording session, we were talking and, cards on the table. I didn't even realize at the time that he was 12. And I thought, because it's like you guys said, why would you put a 12-year-old in a car? So just like some of the context around the relationship the characters had based off of their age was a little bit strange. But apart from that, and I did like John as a character, but I thought that some of his lines were a little bit too dumb and cheesy. But again, this is a comedy, so that's kind of the point. So really, I don't have that much. It's a very campy, fun movie.
I think it's a very, very fun movie. Aside from the whole kind of age thing, personally, I thought it would have made a little bit more sense for Cole to maybe be like 14 or so. Mm-hmm. Like, again, right? That might have been pushing it a little bit, but I kind of feel like Cole really did kind of like grow up, the whole kind of like really take a step forward. In my personal life, I feel like that didn't happen. For me, it happened to me.
I sure fucking hope it didn't happen.
Like I had a whole kind of like, like Jungle Quest and whatnot before I did my whole kind of coming of age thing. And then I became like, what I'm saying, the Justin you all know and love.
Let me ask you a question then, Justin, in sort of lieu of that, because this is a criticism that I could have, but so this movie is getting a sequel. Do you think that it was a problem, and this is open to you as well, Dan, do you guys think...
Nico, what are you talking about? This movie has a sequel.
Is it out right now?
Yes, it's out right now.
Okay, this movie has a sequel that's out right now that at time of recording we haven't fucking seen, asshole. So do you think that it was a mistake on the movie's part to not include a little bit more lore building about like the book or the curse or something? Because Cole does say like, there have been other kids, right? And B fesses up and says yes.
I don't count it as a huge criticism. I imagine that some more information will probably be expositioned on us in the next movie.
Right.
I don't think that it's a big issue. I mean, I don't know if they went into it planning for a sequel necessarily. I didn't need to know that for the movie. I didn't need the deeper lore, I guess.
Agreed.
That's fair.
I'm there with you. Dan, did you have any major criticisms? Or any at all?
Not really. I mean, the only thing is kind of the age thing. Just kind of hard to read, get a read on people's age in this movie. But that's kind of about it. I actually really enjoyed it.
If I had to make one other thing, so... kind of like his friend turned kind of sort of maybe girlfriend by the end of it. Who knows? Melanie, her father is in maybe like 2 scenes and they just kind of make him out to be a douche. Mm-hmm. And I was like,
it's very unrealistic. I got to say, that was really unrealistic.
I was like,
yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, especially like at the beginning is when we see him the most. And it's the beginning of the movie to me is like, It's like an American Pie kind of movie, like just teen,
Almost.
Yeah.
whatever, like super over the top comedy kind of stuff. And her father definitely fit into that role, that type of movie,
Yeah.
I guess.
At the very end of the movie, she kisses Cole on the cheek, like when they're sitting down in like
Melanie,
the post,
yeah.
when they're in like the post fight scene or whatever, and he's sitting down there, and like everyone's like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And she like comes over and sits down next to him, and gives him a kiss, and her dad's like, "You put your lips to his face? What are you gonna get next? Tattoos?" And I was like, "Damn, dude!" Like, I don't know. I almost felt like his character being that way was. I feel like if he was gonna be that way, then it should have been like a bigger part of the movie. But like for it to be such a small part, and then he's just like an ass. I'm like,
He could have been a regular fucking guy and the movie wouldn't have changed at all.
Yeah.
no. In fact, what it could have been actually could have been cool is I would have liked it if maybe, you know, like, I don't know, like he could keep the element of loving the car. Like maybe, you know, like his daughter, because he's divorced, and maybe she could have been like, yeah, you know, my dad's divorced. And since that, he really just poured a lot of love into this car, and this is like his baby. I feel like that could have, at the same time, while making him obsessed with the car, would have made his character a little more, less of a douche, really.
That's a good
That's pretty
point.
much it.
That's fair.
Let's go ahead now and take a look at the review, shall we? So this is The Babysitter, the first one, not the second one, which is out
Which is
now.
out right now.
This has a 72% on Rotten Tomatoes from the critics and a 60% from the audience.
Oh,
That is fucking dispiriting. Dan, what would you give this movie?
I would give it a 88.
88.
wow.
It's big numbers coming from you, Dan. I think that's actually one of the highest ratings you've given to a movie on this pod.
Given a couple 90s for like some of the heavy hitters, but
That's true.
I mean, I really enjoyed it. I had no clue what to expect, and it's just a fun movie. Kind of when you let go of this is a horror movie. When you like, if you don't go into it thinking that, it's just a fun, enjoyable movie. Kind of campy, very campy, but it's just fun. Some cool gore scenes in it, as well as just a couple little kind of deep themes and lines that hit you in the feels every once in a while. And I just really liked it.
Yeah. So literally for most of the same reasons that you say, Dan, I give this movie an 81. I think it's a really good movie. To be honest with you, it feels like a more grown up or adult, slightly gorier, more curse words included version of some of the movies that I might have watched when I was a little kid. You know, like Home Alone, but
Or Page Master,
or Page Master, where like
which
Page
are out
Master's
now.
a deep cut. Both of those are out now. But yeah, you know, like I don't know, like you're all right, Dan. And if I was gonna give it an 80, but there's an extra 1% I gave for Cole's definition of an orgy,
Yeah. That was
which
pretty
to
funny.
paraphrase is when you're a sad person and you get together with a bunch of other sad people to forget for a little while that you're all really sad.
Really fucking funny.
Because Max, literally, after he gives the definition, he's like, you know what? That's actually not a bad definition. And I was like, but no, it gets the extra 1% for that for me. So, Nico, where would you put this movie? What would you give it?
I rate this 85 Samuels out of 100.
Good man.
Oh, R.I.P.
Pretty much for the same reason. Pretty much for the same reason that we discussed RIP.
Yeah, same reasons that we discussed RIP. This movie is out now.
This movie is out now. So let's go ahead. Let's get to judging, shall we? First off, would you recommend this to a friend? Nico?
Fuck yeah.
Dan?
Yes.
I would too. Does this get the golden seal of approval from you? Nico?
If we were a horror comedy podcast, yes. But
No, don't treat it like that. Just, is this movie good enough to get a golden seal of approval? It's horror adjacent, so we're not going to leave it out of the running based on its genre.
okay, that's fair. I'm gonna say still no, just because there were a couple of things that I just like, I don't know, just wasn't as consistent throughout, but I did still really have a great time watching it.
Dan, would you have?
I would have, yeah.
I would have as well. So if you liked what you heard, please go ahead and give us a, follow us along on Twitter at DOTD Horror. We're on Instagram under the same name. That's at DOTD Horror. We're also on Facebook at, we're Don't Open That Door. Does anyone have any last words, to kind of get off their chest before we bring this one to a cease?
R.I.P. Samuel.
R.I.P. Samuel.
Rip.
This movie is out now.
So, still, I can't believe we're still saying this, but wear a mask, keep yourself safe, and as always, ladies and gents, please don't open that door. Have a nice night.